Hello all. In this session, we're going to create a simple stateless ASP.NET Core Service Fabric service and try to deploy it in my local cluster and also in my Azure cluster that we created in the previous video sessions. So let's get started. So I'm just gonna start up my Windows Register 2017 and administrator mode. We kind of do that to debug, as you won't be able to debug an application. And if you have ReSharper installed, make sure you kind of disable it because it kind of gives an issue when you are trying to create a service fabric application. It kind of hangs up your Visual Studio. So let's get started. File new project. Go into the cloud section in the left pane and then service fabric application. What do I call this? Cloudy Service Fabric sample. Creating a stateless ASP.NET Core, and I'm gonna call it as geography service. This is just gonna return a list of name of the countries. Geographies with varieties. Web API. I'm just gonna click yes. And as you see, there are actually two applications that are created. One is the geography service and another root application. Let's just dig into the details of each of it and just see what it has. If I get into the Fabric application, it has got reference to my geography services, and then it has got application manifest, which kind of has got all the information about all the services that are related to this application. So right now I just have one server, one geography service. So I can see there's geography service entry in there, there's manifest details, and there's one custom parameters called as instance count, which is by default set to -1. We will get into more details about the instance count and partition and stuff like that when we discuss more about stateful and stateless servers. So all the configuration that are related to the application goes in here. Yeah. So what we can do is just try and click in here, right click and add new service application, service fabric application, one more, and let's see what happens. I'm gonna call this as product service, which kind of say returns a list of products. Web API again, creating ASP.NET Core 1.0. Take some time to add, a few seconds, waiting for it. Okay, so right now I have two services. So if we go back to the services section in the Service Fabric application, now we can see that there is a reference added to product service as well. So if we keep on going creating more services, it just keeps on adding to it, and I'm sure the application manifest is updated as well. Now I have in the parameter section I have two entries, and if I come down I have two services stateless with single partition. So we'll talk more about it later. In the application parameters section, if you remember right, we have a cloud configuration. If you see the parameters, the same parameters that were there in my manifest file, application manifest file. So the cloud XML in the application parameters sections represents the parameters that are related when you're trying to deploy to the cloud. All those parameters goes in here. So local node. So when you go on a fabric cluster in here, you can see you have two options, node 1 and node 2. So when you are trying to deploy applications to your local cluster and you are targeting one node cluster, then the parameters You can, if you want to override some parameters, you can do that in this file. And if you want to override some parameters related to the local node with 5 nodes, local cluster with 5 nodes, then you can do that here. So that is related to this one. And publish profile refers to all the certificates and stuff that are related to, that are really needed to publish your application. Like say, for example, you can see some stuff are commented, like say the connection parameters and stuff like that. So this is for cloud. You have one for, similarly you have one for local, and one for one node, and one for 5 node cluster. And then you have the deploy, the script which actually deploys your application into any of the profile that you want, the 3 that we have configured right now. So that is with this one. So this is when it comes to geography service or the product service, that is typical ASP.NET Core application. But it does, if we get into this particular class, I can see that it is derived from a stateless service. So that is the very essence of the stateless service. So if we get into further details of it, if we can come in here, you can see this is a web listener which is configured to listen to all our input requests. Right now it is configured to work with the web listener. With ASP.NET Core, you can do it with Kestrel or web listener. The general recommendation is when your API is exposed to the outer world, it kind of better to use web listener, else it is better to use Kestrel. So there are a slight difference between each of them, so we will get into more details of that as well. Right now, let me keep it as it is. So later I would want to change this web listener into Kestrel because I don't really want to expose my services directly to the outside world. I would want to have some kind of a gateway. So I might want to convert this into Kestrel, to use Kestrel rather than web listener. So let us just go in there and create a first controller. This is a default controller that you get. So let me just right click, add a controller with minimum dependencies. I can run some scaffolding. Wait for a couple of seconds. Right click, add a controller again. Let me just create an empty controller. I'll call it GeoController. Run the scaffolding again. Okay, the GeoController is up and running. Let me just create a temporary class. Call it Geography. Alright. Got fat fingers, all my spellings are wrong always. So let me just quickly create a couple of properties. Let it be a string. Let this be the name. Let me create one more property. This be end, and let this be ID. Okay. So let me kind of write a route and say API slash controller, return the actual result. Put on the JSON. We create a list. Geography. That's how it does. Let me just create some dummy ones. Right here. Let's call the one. Geography one. Well, nothing really, just a DOM controller. I was just add just one more earlier to add CG2, save it, send across the geography as JSON result. Yeah, and figure it out. Well, that seems to be okay. So let us just make sure that it builds fine. Waiting for it to build. Okay, it built successfully. All you have to do, you can. The really cool thing is you can just publish it to your local cluster or to the cloud cluster running just by clicking one button. So let me first just push it to my local cluster. I have my final cluster. It just takes a couple of seconds and validates that the connection is successful and the cluster is actually up and running. I tap and publish. I can see all the things that are happening in my output window. It takes some time. It does not really take much time to publish the local cluster. Just one partition for now, so just you can see it's actually executing the script, yeah, with all the parameters that we've set. Publish started, waiting for it, and publish is successful. Yeah, so let us try and check out our local cluster manager. You can directly browse your local cluster. You know where it is. It's in localhost port 190.190.80. Just tap it, and now I can see my application is deployed. So for example, I have two services running, geography service and product service. And let's see, I have it running on localhost port 1860. I did not show you where this port is coming from. Let us get back into the application. If we get into geography service, we have package root, which kind of has got a config file wherein you can add your custom configuration needed. Again, we're going to come back to this one. So let's get into service manifest file. This is the manifest file for your application, which kind of tells the service fabric application what kind of service it is, what is the program, the working directory, the exe, and the configuration, the version, and stuff. So at the end, you have an endpoint where you have mentioned the port number. So if you remember right, in the Azure Service Fabric cluster, when we configure the cluster, we kind of created a certain number of endpoints. Yeah. So you gotta when you publish this to your cluster in the crowd, so you want to make sure that your port that you mentioned here matches over there so that it could be accessed from the outside world. So we are going to change this one once you try to put it to the cloud. Since it's a local cluster, we can work with this port for now. So let's try and go back here and through an access. I can see anything right now because this is not the URL that I'm looking for. If you can remember the route, don't remember the route. Let us go back and see geography services. It was not there. Geo controller. Think the controller will be geo. Yeah. If I try to hit it, yeah, I got my output. So this is it. Now I just publish my service fabric cluster in my local service fabric application in my local cluster. Now let's do the same to my Azure cloud. So let me just quickly get into my portal. I just want to make sure that I get the custom endpoints right. So I'm just logging in. Waiting for it to log in. Well, where is this group? Service fabric resource group. The loop balancer. The help props. It's 8081, 8082, 8083. Let me for my geography service. Let me just go back to my service manifest and say I'm going to 8081. Is that? Yeah, double checking. So let me just save this and build my solution. Try to publish to the cloud. I have an option to publish to the cloud. When I say I want to publish to cloud profile, target profile, I have added my Microsoft account here. You can switch between accounts if you have multiple, or you can add it here. So ideally, in a actual development environment, if you're not a single developer, you would have the setup in your build server, where automatically when you push the code, you want to push it to the cloud environment, be it QA or dev or production. So I'm gonna show how to do that using a CI/CD pipeline in TFS and in coming sections. So since I've selected my Azure account where the service fabric cluster is set up, I can in the dropdown I can see all the clusters that are available for me. If I tap one, it kind of goes, tries to ping it, and it validates it. So let me quickly publish it. It takes quite some time to actually publish it to the. It kind of has got its own store, image store. It kind of pushes all the code packages over there, and from there it kind of spins up, so deploys the application. So it might take some time. So we'll be back once it is done. We kind of ended up with an error. Right now I have a really slow network, so when you're actually working on a slow network, you get this often operation gets timed out because the default value that is set to deploy the application is 10 seconds. So if you want to get into the deploy script and increase this value, let's just go timeout. Copy package timeout. Okay, let me just set this value to it's in seconds. So if I say 2000 seconds, it's about 30 minutes. Let's see. Copy package timeout. Should I set something else? Think that's it for now. And then just right click, publish again. The validation runs. Publish again. And finally, the application is deployed. So let us just go in here, get the URL. Let's jump into. Okay, I have the URL. Let me just try to enter 80. Access the Cluster Explorer and see. This is my Cloudy Friday service Fabric cluster URL. Current load. I have one node and my application is deployed. So let me just quickly come down and see. Okay, it is. Geography service is running on port 8081, but you can't really access the IP. Uh, Let me just quickly do this. Yeah, Cloudy Friday. There we go. Here, let me just quickly do this. Slash API slash GL. Should be able to access it. Yes, my application is deployed successfully onto the Service Fabric cluster in the cloud. So that's it for this session. In the next session, we are going to develop a gateway wherein it would be a single entry point for all the ad services. You don't really want to expose every services and every port that is running on every pod to the outside world. So you kind of gonna have a gateway in front of all your services so that would be a single entry point to the outside world. So there is one better way of doing it as well. If you are willing to spend good enough the subscription that it costs, the offering is called as uh I'm not getting the name. The name as I guess it's Azure API Manager. It's a really cool offering which kind of lets you manage all your APIs, be it hosted in Service Fabric or outside. It has got a great integration with the Service Fabric cluster. So we will also look into that sometime in the future. So that's it for this session. Thank you guys.